middle, and then touch, wait, right here, record. Mics are on.
I told Margot she could do 6 different things. She said Margot was like, oh, great.
All right, good evening. I'm going to call the Human Affairs Committee to order. It is March 12th, 7 p.m., and we are here in the Aldermanic Chamber. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderwoman Marianne Magluzzi-Gola.
Present.
Alderman June Karen.
Here.
Alderman Patricia Clee. Absent. That's her running.
She's here.
And I'm here too.
Alderman Lori, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and Alderman Clee has joined us. Thank you.
And Alderman Linda Harriet Gathright is present.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have a quorum.
Actually, I have to run upstairs again.
Okay. So tonight's, first thing on tonight's agenda is the public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant. Sorry, a little scattered tonight. I'm going to do things a little bit differently this evening than I would normally do for the public hearing on CDBG. And I'm going to give a little bit of leeway to the applicants because we did not make it out to the sites for the site visits when we had scheduled them last week. So I'm going to give a little leeway. If you have pictures, if you have handouts, if you want to do a little question and answer while you get up to the mic, because we're going to take that in your testimony, and then we're going to meet. We're going to close the public hearing and then open our regular meeting and discuss what we might like to see funded. That by no means is what's going to get funded because, as most of you know, we put a recommendation in a resolution and then it goes back to the full board. It gets referred back to this committee and then back to the full board. So there'll still be a lot of time in between all that for us to decide what might get funded. So I just wanted to let you know that once you've given your public testimony, you don't have to hang around for the rest of the meeting. You're welcome to, but you don't have to. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. So we also have with us Urban Programs Manager Carrie Skeena and Director Marchant. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start off the public hearing. As you know, the city is an entitlement community. We get community development block grant funds every year. We go through the process of public hearings and public testimony, so that's what tonight's meeting is mainly about. So I'm going to open up the public hearing, and our first speaker is going to be Carol Baldwin from the Adult Learning Center. Carol, you can have a seat at one of these chairs. You don't have to stand at the mic if you don't want. Okay? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Carol Baldwin, the current director of the Nashua Adult Learning Center, and I've brought with me Bob Terrio. He's our facilities manager. We are asking for money to repair the ballasts on the windows at our 4 Lake Street property. The picture that I brought with me shows the backside of the building, and it happens to be the last time we received CDBG money, and it was to repair the retaining wall between the Adult Learning Center and Rotary Park. The other picture that I've brought is just an interior picture of the window. The windows don't actually look bad. They look very good, as a matter of fact. They were installed in 1992. I just want to point out that we do own the building. It was transferred to us in the mid-'80s, and I have the deed that was signed by then Mayor Jim Donchis. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars renovating the building. We take a lot of pride in keeping it bright and clean and welcoming. We replaced the 1920s boiler a few years back, and the building gets a tremendous amount of use. But there are 80 windows, and most of them cannot be opened. They're also a hazard in our child care facility. They're very heavy windows, as they were done in that time. If a ballast were to break and come down, it could hurt a child, so we just do not open the windows. We have a quote to have all 80 windows repaired. of $69,000. That's from a local contractor, DL King, who's done most of the work in our building. We have a $10,000 grant already from another source. We are asking for $50,000 tonight.
Okay, Bob, did you want to add anything to that?
No, just like Carol had said, the windows are very, very heavy. Foremost, it's very scary in the childcare to, have a window open. When the balances go on both sides of those windows, they come down like guillotines, and they will literally cut the child's hand off. So the windows are very, very heavy.
Are they the
So-
old rope sash?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
They-
I'm very familiar
They're
with
actually,
those.
yeah, the balances are actually a spiral balance on
Okay.
each side, but there's 4 of them, 2 on the top sash and 2 on the bottom.
And that's what you'd be looking to repair or replace,
Exactly.
is all those?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm gonna offer a little leeway if anyone has any questions of the Adult Learning Center, because we didn't get to go out to the site visits. Now would be a good opportunity to do that.
I would just say, I'm reading your application. I have no questions, but thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
Next, we have Norm Bouthillette from Boys and Girls Club. Good evening, Norm.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to pass out the photos that I have
Okay,
first, if you don't mind.
Excuse me, Norm, while Norm's doing that, should we ask for copies of photos just to put with the minutes?
We
you
can do
think
that.
If you want to just put like Adult Learning Center on them, so we'll know when we're
they've already
finally.
left.
No, she's
Oh,
like,
she's still
Carol's
here.
still
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just put.
Thank you.
And the date. Yeah, thank you, Norm.
You're welcome.
Norm, do you have an extra copy for the record?
Yes, I do. I've got several. Here you go. I'll give one to Carrie, too, because she didn't make it on top of it.
Thank you.
Just took those this afternoon, about 6 inches of snow, so I'm glad the meeting's tonight, not tomorrow.
Yeah, really.
Very good.
But,
Welcome.
good evening, city officials.
Good evening.
My name is Norm Bouthillette. I'm the CEO at the Boys and Girls Club in Nashua. And first and foremost, I just want to, thank City Hall and the CDBG process over the years. It's been very successful for our organization and for many other organizations in helping us become a premier youth development facility in the city. You just can't do it by yourself, and it's important that that we get and raise and fund so many dollars to go to programs. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's not that you don't forget the building or if it's in repair or disrepair or whatever, but my philosophy's always been you try to save money for the rainy day, and my board is the same way, and my depreciation account on an annual basis should be about $150,000. This past couple of years, 25,000, 20,000. And so it's very, very tight because if I direct 100,000 into the capital depreciation account, well, guess what? That means a staff or 2 staff people or a department suffers, whether it's the academics, the character and leadership, or the healthy lifestyles. So it's a very fine line that we all, nonprofits, walk. But just a couple years ago, we had a very successful program with our pavilion and our child safety with cameras and so forth. That worked out extremely well. We were able to leverage several dollars from that, from the funds that we received. And most recently, we're going to put together a nice new playground as well, and that's from the CDBG monies from last year. So beyond that, our facility was built in '74, the pool was added in '75, and we've had 3 capital campaigns, and the city of Nashua has been side by side with us on all those 3 campaigns to the tune of several hundreds, thousands of dollars. And we've been at One Positive Place for the last 46 years. So if you haven't been there recently, I'd like to have you come for a visit in the future. The project itself is real simple. We have about 22 different HVAC units on top of our building. That's a 50,000 square foot building. In 2009, when we had the capital campaign of $4.2 million to transform the building, we did a lot of new HVAC units to that structure. However, we did not have enough funds to actually do what we wanted to do, and each year we've been sort of band-aiding our HVAC units. I've got to know my HVAC unit vendor all too well, and asking them, well, is it time to really shut this down and spend 15 grand on a new one, or can I fix it for $1,000 and we can pray for a couple years that it's going to be okay? So it's been kind of that kind of back and forth, not the best business plan to follow. But we do have in this proposal 8 HVAC units that are, the oldest is 32 years old, believe it or not, and the youngest of this batch is 17 years old. And we're looking at a figure of $125,960 to repair all those HVAC units. Now, that's a tough, when I was sitting here and I'm listening and so forth, and I get the sense, and when I read this earlier coming in here, I'm going, wow, 126,000 is, I don't know, to be honest with you, that number is very steep. It really is. I feel like it's sort of, almost too steep with everything that's happening and the need that's out there. So I'm looking at this number. I want to change this number if that's appropriate. I've never done that before, but when I looked at the budget and I says, wow, I like to say you got to put skin in the game. You've got to leverage it. You've got to, for dollar, whatever we are fortunate to receive, we would match that dollar for dollar to fix as many of those HVAC units as possible. So great, if it was 75,000 or 80,000 or whatever, we would match that, to get this job done. So if you do the math at 125 divided by 2, that's 62.5. So that would be a wonderful figure for us to look at and leverage that and get these 8 HVAC units up and running so that we have a more efficient building. We're utilizing less dollars for electricity and for gas and for the whole upkeep of that. So, and the reason why we're here for and the reason why we all qualify is, in this case, is to go back to serving the kids and giving them, a plan for the future, have them graduate from high school, have them become civic-minded young people, be productive citizens in our community, and also, at the same time, make the right decisions when it comes to health and nutrition, exercise, and now, more importantly than ever, with the opioid epidemic, it's so critical that we continue to look at youth prevention dollars, and as more we can make at one end or the other end, such as this, then it's a win-win for our kids and our community. So that's our request this evening, and if there are any questions at all, or I can ask, Bob can answer them for me. He's a facilities manager. I always look for one. No, you left? Oh, you left? Oh, that son of a gun.
I
He
think
left me holding the.
Alderman Clee might have a question for you,
yes.
Norm.
Actually, it's just a quick question.
Sure.
Are you replacing or fixing? Because you talked about the repairs and keeping your fingers crossed. Are you actually just replacing these 8 units?
That is the intent.
The hope, yeah.
Yes, that's definitely the intent and the hope.
So we're not going to
replace-
be Band-Aiding anymore.
No,
then?
not at all. And we've gotten several quotes from that 126 and change to about 135 and change and so forth. And I know how this works with the vendors and so forth, so it's a little different strategy, which is fine. I mean, I'm fine with Wally's comes in and does it. I just get it done. That'd be great, So,
Anyone else?
Linda?
So your request is for 62.5, not the 129?
Yeah, it's 50%. Yeah, but that's to me. I feel a lot better at that level.
Anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, thanks, Norm.
Okay, great. Thank
Appreciate you
very
being here
much.
this evening.
Thanks
Thank
for all
you.
you do.
Thank you for all you do. Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Krista from Marguerite's Place. I'm not even going to attempt the last name.
Secrensis.
Secrensis.
Yep.
Okay,
Looks worse than it is.
welcome.
Thank you. I brought some photos.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I have another one? Thank you.
One for the record. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Okay, my name's Krista Secrensis. I'm the Director of Development and Public Relations from Marguerite's Place. And Marguerite's Place, in case you don't know, is a transitional living program for women and children, women ages 18 to 45 and children 12 and under. And we've been in existence since 1994. And we are requesting money for siding our building, which was re-sided before we've even been in existence. So 25 years ago was the last time in 1993 that it's been worked on. We have two buildings, and the one specifically that needs the most work right now is on 89 Palm Street. It houses 7 apartments. So our apartments are fully furnished. Our women come into a nice, open, bright apartment needing nothing. And what makes our program unique is we have on-site childcare. And our buildings each have one childcare center. We have 2 areas. And this 89 Palm Street holds the infants and the toddler preschool area.
So the photos you gave us, those are for 89 Palm Street?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So that's showing the condition that it's in today. And the main concern is safety. The building does abut the playground area. Also neighbors, we've had through some of these storms, pieces flying off, and we're doing our best to patch it together and hold it together as we can to ensure the safety and cover up sharp pieces and keep our kids safe. But it definitely needs to be completely re-sided. And we received a quote from a local Chick-fil-A, Nashua business. And so the request is for $99,000, which would cover that siding and the repair and replacement of some doors on both buildings as well. And so that's all included in the proposal.
So the siding on this building, is that aluminum or is it
It is.
vinyl?
It's aluminum.
Okay.
Yes, from 1993.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Alderman Karen?
Is that the only quote you had, was from?
yes, just the
Okay.
one. We could attain more. I was told the vendors have to go through the city as well.
Okay,
So,
thank
but
you.
if we needed to do some more on our end, we could do that as well.
Did you have a question?
Yes, the siding is for 89, and the doors are for,
89 and 3 at 87.
thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for being here.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Next, we have Sean Nelson. Hi, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Can we have two, one for the record? Thank you. Thanks. Okay, thanks for being here tonight.
I broke your chair.
Oh,
Just don't fall.
that's all.
Thanks for
the
having me.
Lopez.
So I will give you the short and sweet version of this application is really about 2 things.
Okay.
Lighting and increasing our fire extinguisher suppression system. If I could do as I do most things backwards, starting at the bottom of this sheet that I gave you, you see a side-by-side picture. Whenever the building was converted from the school to the PAL Center, somebody decided that the female bathrooms needed more sprinkler coverage than the men. So what you see there is on the left, the stall that is the female bathroom.
Yeah.
And there's 2 of those, and there's a single stall where the men's bathroom is, and then there's 2 closets next to that. In that men's bathroom, the bathroom is covered with the sprinkler suppression system, but the individual stalls and the closets that are next to them are not. So they've been, our friends at Tri-State Fire and a few others have been telling us that for safety reasons, we should increase that fire suppression in that area, and now we're bringing it forth in part of this application. The largest in terms of dollars is around lighting. What you see is an aerial view, and we've fixed the roof since then thanks to some CDBG funding. So this roof, you see a little spot there where we had a nice, this picture actually reflects a smaller puddle. We had a much larger one that was fixed 2 years ago, again thanks to CDBG funds. But this aerial photo with these colorful arrows sort of shows you 3 levels of lighting. What we're looking to do is increase low-level lighting around the building. We will have the power to shut off and turn on this lighting, all these lightings I'm about to talk about, but it's been a request of our community partners. We host a lot of community meetings in the PAL Center. People sometimes feel unsafe. So the low-level lighting would not disturb the neighbors. We have one low-level light currently in the front of the building. The thought of this application is to increase that low-level lighting to the 2 sides, being if you're staring at the building, the left side and the back side, where we unfortunately have had some folks hanging out and that we don't think should be there, especially for a youth program. The second level would be the ability to add floodlights. So in the front of the building, we would like to add floodlights, which would not only increase safety during those times of use, but also increase our hours of available usage. Basically, right now at sunset, the party's over at PAL. If we're not in the building, the exterior is unavailable to us. So we'd like to increase that. And the third is lighting. We'd like to be able to, as a power of technology and new lights, be able to flash up colors during holidays or during community celebrations. And we're fortunate as a hazard of our ability to connect to the neighborhood. We have lots of folks that want to use the building. So we want to be able to appreciate those during all seasons and all times of the year and be able to flash up Christmas lights or 4th of July and have a celebration for the neighborhood. And we're sort of doing those things now, but being able to increase the lighting would increase that participation. I think our neighbors would enjoy it, and I know the youth definitely would. So that is our application.
Okay, questions for Mr. Nelson?
I just, if I may, and actually, I'm not sure if it's for Sean or for Carrie. Carrie, in the memo we got from you dated February 9th, the request from PAL is for 10, and it says sprinkler costs removed. So I was just wondering where we were with that.
So reading through the application, it appeared similar to last year's request, which was more of a maintenance-based. As Sean is describing now, it sounds like it's more an expansion, and it would be a physical permanent improvement to the building. So that cost would be eligible. I think what was described last year, and it appeared to sort of be the same this year, was updating valves and replacing valves and things like that. That would be maintenance. But as Sean just described it, it would be eligible as a physical improvement because it's permanently affixed.
Okay, so it's a fire safety improvement.
Right, and it extends the system.
Okay, all right. So it is the 12,000 plus that we're looking at.
Sean could confirm that.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Alderman Clee.
Hi, I just have one quick question. Will the lights that you're putting on the exterior, you said you can turn them on and off, but will they also be movement? So if someone were to come to close to the building, they automatically come on? I know at home I have like a low level, high level, so it's low level, but if somebody comes close to it, it goes up in intensity.
Yeah, they have told us there's basically no limit. The cost of adding a motion sensor would be minimal. So we haven't looked at that for anything other than the low level. So we've talked about that. The electricians say that it is best to flood the area with this low level light. to deter folks from going in. Because some of the folks that, honestly, some of the folks that have found their way have been going, set up camp, and sleeping the night.
Right.
So the motion sensor, as they describe to us, would not solve that issue.
Okay, I guess the question I had was that they stay in a low-level mode, but that the motion makes them go in higher intensity.
We haven't looked at that because it's a pretty active area. So if some of our young friends might find that comical to keep their neighbors up at night. So
Got it.
we, after closing hours, when we flip the switch, don't want to go above low level, and
Got
that's
it.
just strictly for safety.
Got it. Thank you.
So the amount that you had initially asked for, the 12,338, is still what you're looking for, correct?
Yeah, unlike
Okay.
Norm, I want to ask for 110%. But yes, that's full. The
Okay.
full ask is the 12,338.
Okay. Any other questions for Sean? Seeing none?
Thank
you
you.
for being here.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks.
You're welcome. And we have Emily Menier from Nashua Center.
Thank you.
I need an additional one. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
So thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Emily Menier, and I'm the Executive Director of Nashua Center. And we submitted an application to have our lighting removed and replaced. So we are partnering with Eversource and their turnkey project. They came in and did an audit about 2 months ago, taking a look at our facility. So our facility is just short of 10,000 square feet. We have 130 light fixtures, and we would be looking to remove and replace all of them. So the total cost of the project is $23,363. That's the top page that I gave you. But because of the turnkey program, we were approved for half of that to be assumed by Eversource. So what we requested was half of the cost of what it will be to replace all of the light fixtures. So that's $11,681.75. What you also see on the page is that the estimated energy cost savings annually for us as an organization would be $4,975.56, which our return on investment would be 43%, and within less than 2.5 years, we would have the project pay it off. Or we would assume our return on investment. So we currently lease our facility at 18 Simon Street. We've been there for 38 years, and we intend to stay there long-term. We have a great partnership with Nash Foundation, and it's suited us well as a facility, so we have every intention of staying there. I didn't open, I should say, from the beginning. For those who don't know, we do provide services to individuals with developmental disabilities as well as acquired brain disorders. And many of them receive their services directly at the 18 Simon facility. So they're spending anywhere from 15 hours to 40 hours a week at the facility. So the improvements to the light fixtures is very important to them. We have very tired light fixtures. They're blinking. We've had water damage. We've done everything we can to kind of tweak and keep them up to date and up to speed. But it's definitely time for them to be replaced. In addition to the improvements on the cost, there's also the efficiencies of the electricity, as well as just the environmental factors of replacing all of the lights. So we're excited about that. We've been trying to go as green as possible as an organization, and so this is a move in that direction as well. So the picture I have in the back is just light fixtures. It's pretty simple. We have, each light fixture has 4 bulbs. It's T12 bulbs, which I'm told are the most efficient that are humanly possible. So I'm learning a lot about light fixtures. So we would be looking to remove and change all of those bulbs as well. So it's the fixtures and the bulbs. So it would be a total replacement. And I think that's it. It's pretty cut and dry.
Pretty straightforward, yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Emily? Pretty straightforward.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Appreciate you
opportunity.
being here.
Appreciate it.
Okay, no one else has signed up, but I do notice that Ms. Kleiner is here and has an application in. I wondered if you'd mind joining us. Hi there. Welcome. Do you want to give us a little background on the
Sure.
application?
Thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes on behalf of the Arlington Street Community Center. In the past, this city has made significant contributions to support our nonprofit agencies that work so hard to provide services within our community. We do that through city funds and through CDBG funds. Their work is so vital and our investment in them is so vital. The request before you is no different. That is a partnership that we have with our nonprofits through this process, and so is the Arlington Street Community Center. The center is a collaborative effort to bring targeted services offered by many city divisions as well as nonprofits. So city divisions such as the National Police Department, the National Public Health, nonprofits like the Boys and Girls Club, the Y, the Adult Learning Center, PAL, Discover Dance, United Way. I could go on and on. Together, a board of over 22 representatives from all these agencies plan, organize, and even clean the center. We learn from each other and we coordinate services with each other to ensure that we are not duplicating services within our community, but truly servicing a need. We're very proud with the fact that our requests for center space has continued to grow each month. That's a positive. So we're seeing young preschoolers learning to read, high school students learning how to develop mobile apps, and teens learning youth leadership skills within the center. But all this requires a lot of outreach and administrative tasks, fielding and responding to community requests, agency questions, and families seeking direction and assistance. There's everything from setting the calendar, coordinating space, and dealing with city risk department on insurance and building access, as well as collecting the all-important data needed for the board to evaluate our programming and make sure it's making a true impact. Overseeing volunteers, leveraging existing resources is so crucial to this true community project. Searching for grants and outside funding to continue the city's work is also important. And these are all things that really require a full-time staff member at the center. What you have is a vast group of community agencies that are all working hard on their own agencies, and city staff that, as you know, all have full-time jobs. As you can see by the letters submitted by various partners, the director is important to many of us to ensure that the center is meeting its objectives and the community is getting its needs met. We have been asked, our office has been asked most recently, why we're looking for this position to be a city position. For a number of reasons. So the way the center is set up, the center has building access through the city. So we had established, put in the same building access that you see at the front of City Hall. And that's all monitored back through our city risk department. So this community director would have access to some of our files both in the mayor's office that are in a specific layout for the community center so that they have access to various board meeting agendas and all the community data that we've pulled. And it would have direct access with risk to make sure that those building access cards are issued, that the community agencies applying for space have insurance that meets the city's requirements. So when we looked at it, because it's a city building and it's governed by certain rules, we felt it would be best if the person was an employee of the city. We also use our own human resources department here for ensuring that all of our volunteers go through background checks. So that person would be able to deal directly with human resources and all of our division directors, whether it's DPW because the center needs to be plowed out or salt or sanded. We really thought it would be a good fit. So that's one of the reasons. Why did we come to you? So I think at the time that we sat down and we discussed the request, we felt that it met the same needs as many of the other requests. The only difference is this is just a city building. All the programming that's being put forth is all from our wonderful nonprofit agencies that step up every day to serve our community. We're just providing the space and by the with pleasure working with them. We learn from them every day. When we sit at a board meeting, and all of you are welcome to attend a board meeting, they're the second Wednesday of every month, 8:30 at the center. We really talk about services and how the services are being dealt with in the community and how to coordinate them. So this is truly a truly special collaborative process, one that I think that we can do much more of in the future. We're leveraging resources and taking advantage of our specialties that the different agencies have. I think in another way, to be honest, the city needs to step up and put in a piece of the pie, and I'll tell you why. The center, if you go into it now, is quite amazing. You'll see little preschool furniture all donated by the YMCA. You'll see adult tables and chairs and projector screens all donated from Lowell Technical School through our Board of Education member, Gloria Timmons. So they've really stepped up. So this is our putting our little piece of the pie into it to make it truly collaborative.
Very nice. Questions?
I have a question. Was there additional information besides what's in the application?
There was a memo that we sent out with the, through Sue Lovering on.
I must have missed it then. As you were talking, I was, that's okay. I'll find it and get it. Thank you.
And that has a list of the partners and several letters from several different partners.
That was attached to tonight's agenda.
I must have somehow missed it
Okay.
in looking at it. Thanks.
Alderman Karen.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Question, this person that you want, who would they report to? Who would oversee them? You know, who is going to be in charge?
It's a good question. So for city, as far as reporting hours and evaluating, it would be the mayor's office. As far as reporting for actually what's going on in the center, evaluating data, it would be the board of the center.
Alderman Lisa Golia, did you have other questions?
Well, and Ms. Kleiner and I have had this conversation, so I think I'm just asking this more just to put it out there for people who may be wondering what this is about. Can you describe what the relationship between My Brother's Keeper and the city is? Because my understanding is My Brother's Keeper is a 501c3, correct? They've established that?
No, so the National My Brother's Keeper
Right.
is a 501c. It's actually been absorbed into the Obama Foundation.
Right.
The local My Brother's Keeper was a call to action by the mayor. So we operate under the city just like any committee that is formed under Mayor Donches. I think there has been some conversation most recently about if that at some point needs to become a more formalized structure. It seems to be working, so we have many people on that committee that are in leadership positions within the city. And we have 2 staff members from the mayor's office that participate. Most of the decisions that are made regarding the center are made by the board. So are made by the representatives that I believe we brought to you last year, but we can always get you another list when we requested the capital amount money last year. There's about 22 of us participating on the board.
Okay, if I may, I thought they were in the process of getting their nonprofit status, so, but that's okay.
But I think I know what you're referring to, if I may. Friends of My Brother's Keeper, which was put together by Suzanne Harvey for the fundraising arm, is operating through the United Way as their fiscal agent.
Okay, so that's, okay. So right now, the program is really operating just as a city program under the mayor's office?
Yes.
Okay, with reporting to the mayor's office or to community development?
Reporting to the mayor's office.
To the mayor's office, okay. The 60,000 you're requesting what happens at the end of the first year when that runs out?
So it was never the original intent to have to come to the board to ask for funds to operate the center. I think when we opened at the end of October, there was a lot of work to do. We took up that work as fast as we possibly could. We are now just looking for grants and starting to apply for grants. But obviously the need arose faster than we could possibly fundraise or search for grants. So that's why we felt it was imperative to come for this year.
Okay, and if I may, I know that your activity at that building has increased and the programming coming out of that building has increased, which is really great. That's what we want to see happen. And I appreciate that in and of itself, managing that building and programming that building is a full-time job. That people in City Hall who also have full-time jobs, it's like taking a second job. So I appreciate that.
It's been a truly group effort.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of the people sitting behind me and a lot more. So it's a wonderful.
Good. Anyone else have questions? Alderman Karen.
Yes, thank you. So this person you're looking to hire full-time, they're not only going to coordinate what takes place at the facility with the other nonprofits that are there, but also do grant writing and, okay. So,
It's a challenging position.
well, I understand that. So would you be looking that this person would look to these other agencies who have been doing this type of thing for a long time to help them, especially if you're looking to move quickly on looking for grants and opportunities. Not that you want to compete with the Boys and Girls Club, but certainly their expertise in looking for grants would be something that I would think you would want to take advantage of.
One of the benefits of the center is it's providing space. So you have several different ways that you can apply for grants and leverage different services. Some nonprofits, such as the YMCA, they have a program they want to run in the center, and they apply for a grant, which funds, the YMCA. That's one way. And the other way is there's some grants that are available just for MBK initiatives, and the center can apply to those and pass them through
Okay,
to the programmers or use them for operating.
thank you.
Anything else? Alderwoman Lacey.
Yes. What is the relationship between the school and the program, the school district?
So obviously, when we opened the center in the Dr. Crisp neighborhood, originally we had found out that Dr. Crisp Elementary had a number of needs. And it was the highest poverty school at that point. There's been some shifts, and there constantly are between Ledge and Dr. Crisp. But we deal with Dr. Crisp virtually every day. The PTO now meets at the center. The principal is very active in the center, as is our staff. One of the programs they're looking at, and it's starting next week, is an after-school tutoring program. And they will actually be working with the teachers, not only teachers from Dr. Crisp, but teachers from other schools as well, who want to, now I'm forgetting my words, kind of put the children or send the children to an after-school, recommend them for an after-school tutoring. And they'll actually work with these retired teachers that came from the National School District to say, this is what our class is working on, and this is what the child needs help in. So the partnership with the school district is crucial. I mean, that was one of our original intentions, was to get children reading by grade level, early education, and preventing youth violence and giving second chances. So working with the school department is crucial, and they've been wonderful every step of the way.
May I just follow?
Sure, yeah.
Have, you and I both, we all know how tight that budget is, but has there been any contemplation of using some of the school department resources to assist in grant writing or looking for grants that might be worth than the board moving forward with?
There has. So a number of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, there was a position within the school district that was impacted by budget cuts.
Right.
So their ability to apply for grants has been impacted by that as well, unfortunately. And I think we all struggle with that. We certainly struggle with it in our office as much as they do within district administration. And it's a conversation we have started to have. Unfortunately, we haven't looked at anything for this budget cycle. I would hope that the center director would work with not only the school department, but all the agencies to really figure out what is the best way to apply and to leverage all the services and make sure that everybody's getting what they need. And this is a partnership, and we stress that every step of the way.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I know this seems a little out of the ordinary, but I'm going to call for testimony in opposition to CDBG. Seeing none, anyone else want to give any testimony in favor? Everybody's talked out?
May I just say that if you thought of something you wanted to share, you can come back up.
Carrie?
Carrie.
This seems like an appropriate time. Superintendent Caggiano couldn't attend tonight due to the
Great.
impending storm, but he did provide a memo with some samples related to the splash pad, just to give you a visual idea. So I just wanted to.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Carrie.
you. Appreciate that. She wants more. Thanks, Carrie. You know, I have to say, my daughter takes my granddaughter to the splash pad in Derry. She always says, I don't know why Nashua doesn't have a splash pad. The kids would really love it.
We have one,
We have one.
National Street, back of Round Manor, right by Sandy Pond.
So what is that one compared to this one? Is it,
Well, it's not as big,
oh,
but
okay.
it's used constantly.
Really?
In the summertime, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
And now it will be used more since Alderman Karen announced its location.
Yay for
Okay.
me.
The idea would be to build this water park next to Rotary Pool.
Right,
Mhm.
That's the one at Fairgrounds.
right.
Right,
Okay,
across the street.
yeah, okay. Well, pretty exciting, because I know the kids love these splash pads.
I was, about a couple of years ago, I was in Canada, and they had them all over the place, and those
Big
kids
hit.
were running, yeah, there were a lot of really big kids about my age running through it, too.
Big kids about your
Yeah,
age, I love
yeah.
it. Okay, so, Carrie, would you mind joining us? I'm gonna close the public hearing first. No more testimony in favor or opposition to CDBG. Seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 7:55 and open the regular meeting of the Human Affairs Committee. So would the clerk please, once again, call the roll?
Alderwoman Mary Ann Malisi Goza.
Present.
Where is it? Alderman Patricia Clee.
Here?
Alderman June Karen.
Here.
And I'm here. And Alderman Lori Wishaw.
I am here. We are all here. We also have Carrie Skeena with us and anyone else who cares to join us. Thanks for being here, Carrie. Was it the intent to maybe start to put together the resolution this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as those of you who have been here before know, what we do is we'll take a look at the list of applications and at least draft a plan that will go back to the full board and then be referred back to us. And so that's what we'll do this evening. All right. So you all have the list of applicants in front of you? No? Okay. You can look at this one, Alderman Karen, if you'd like.
I was just copying it for you.
That's okay. Did you want to join us, Sarah? Oh. Oh, goodness. Oh, boy.
So is this the
We
list?
better move it
That's
then.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Could I make a motion to go out of order and take the later resolution? So I would move that we go out of order and prior to discussing the CDBG requests, we address new business resolution R18007, authorizing the filing of applications and execution of grant agreements with the U.S. Department of Transportation for grants under the Urban Mass Transportation Act of 1964 as amended for fiscal year 2019. I'm sorry, fiscal years 2019 and 2020.
So we actually have three
As- and-
resolutions.
Okay, and I was going to say 18009 and 18031.
Okay, the motion is to go out of order and take up the new business. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we will take those out of order. Okay, new business resolutions. We have R 18-007, authorizing a filing of applications and execution of grant agreements with the U.S. Department of Transportation for grants under the Urban Mass Transportation Act of 1964 as amended for fiscal years 2019 and 2020. Director Marchant, feel free to join us. You got lucky.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So real quick, this is just the blanket biennial grant acceptance that we do to accept all the FTA funds, which run in large part our transit system. So it's a blanket one. We do it every 2 years. And as these funds are being appropriated, we thought we should get right to it.
Okay, Alderwoman Melissa Goya.
Yes, I would make a motion for final passage.
Motion is to recommend final passage of R 18-007. Any other discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that motion carries. We have Resolution 18-009 relative to the transfer of city matching funds in the amount of $2,985 from Police Grant Activity 2018 Violence Against Women Grant Program into Police Grant Activity FY17 Violence Against Women Grant Program. I don't see Mr. Adamson here or anyone from the PD, but this is a Violence Against Women grant that's been coming in, and it helps to fund the domestic violence units at the National Police Department. Alderman Melissa Goya.
Yes, I would move to recommend final passage.
Motion is to recommend final passage. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Resolution 18-013, relative to the acceptance and appropriation of $378,117 from the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation into Transit Grant Activity Transit Service Expansion. Alderwoman Melissa Goya.
Yes, I would move to recommend final passage.
Motion is to recommend final passage. You're up, Director Marchant.
Thank you. So this is a CMAQ grant that the transit system applied for. The funding becomes available in July 1, and it is to extend service to Walmart. We have started a very limited service to Walmart, which has been met with much success. It's the second most requested stop that we don't have or thing that we could do to improve the transit system. So this is for a 3-year grant, and our hope is to we have a grant that includes the ability to purchase a shelter so that people can shelter there, and Walmart has agreed to allow it to be right outside their front door, and they will do all the winter maintenance for us, which we are
Nice.
grateful for. So we are really excited to be able to extend this service. It's something that by the extension of service, we should be able to provide job access as well, because before it's just too limited. So.
This is the
huge for
Walmart
us.
in Hudson you're talking about?
Amherst.
In Amherst?
Yeah, because 101 is a
Wow.
much busier route for us,
Right.
and there's it's an easier transfer, so we can
Wow.
get you back to the city center to transfer to other routes easier this way too.
Very good. That's awesome.
Exciting.
That's very good.
Yes.
Exciting. Anything else? Any other discussion on that motion? Motion before us is to recommend final passage of R 18-013. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
And a good snow day tomorrow.
I have to go pick up my kids.
So I'll entertain a motion to go back to the regular order of business.
So moved.
So moved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Okay. Carrie, you can come on down. Alderwoman Melissa Goya.
I would move to accept the communication from Kim Kleiner regarding the Arlington Street Community Center Director request and place on file.
Motion is to accept the communication from Kim Kleiner, Chief of Staff, regarding Arlington Street Community Center Director request and place that communication on file. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, and that motion carries. Very impressive list of character and project references here. Okay. So, what do we want to do with CDBG, people?
Go home and think about it. No.
Okay, let's talk about it. We can go line by line if you want to do that. I know we have a couple of new people here. Carrie?
You had requested a copy of the admin budget?
Yes.
So I have that to
Okay,
provide
good,
as well.
good. Thank you. I know for the new members, they just see line items and there's nothing to match them up with, so I think that's helpful for people.
Thank you, Carrie.
So no matter what we decide to fund or not fund this evening, this is going to come back before us, and we're going to look at it again and again and have other public hearings on it. So what I'd like to do is go line by line and start talking about the projects at least, and how we think or how we feel about them, and who wants to make a motion to fund them or not fund them. Okay. So the entitlement FY19 is estimated still at $596,000. Reprogram funds $56,846.95, and program income of $40,000. Those numbers are all still good?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So the first number, well, the first one on my list, I don't know if we all are working from the same list or not, but is public services, which is which is up to 15% of the $596,000, which is the estimated entitlement for this year. This is the pot of money that has a request for $60,000 for the center director for the Arlington Street Community Center. So let's discuss. Carrie.
So at the last meeting, we briefly spoke about the public service cap, and I think I did a poor job of trying to explain it, but it's 15% of what the entitlement award will be. As you said, we're estimating that to be $596,000. But they also have like this other piece of the rule that says you can take up to 15, or the cap can also include up to 15% of what they call your prior year program income. So that's actually what the current year we're in right now.
Okay.
And I didn't have that number at our last meeting, but I did look it up just before tonight's meeting. Now, it doesn't give extra money, so to speak. It just allows that cap to go higher. So currently, we've received $122,960 in program income this current fiscal year. And that's been repayment of housing rehab loans. It was a pretty big year this year.
That's a lot of money, yeah.
It is.
Huge.
That's probably one of the most we've received.
Wow.
So 15% of that number is $18,444.
And
Which-
that would be added to the program income line of 40,000?
No, so that
Okay.
would be added to the calculation to calculate the public service cap.
Okay, gotcha.
So it would bring the total cap, and again, it's not giving you extra money, it's just allowing you to allocate more.
Mhm.
But that would bring the total to $107,844.
That would be the 15%.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But the bottom line of what's available, we're still estimating to be the $692,847. So
Well,
again, it doesn't change it. It just
Yeah, I have to admit, this request has been a little bit different for us, right? I mean, typically we allocate a percentage and that goes to review and comment. However, I have to say, giving it a lot of thought and reading all the letters of support that Ms. Kleiner brought in, I think I'd like to fund it. At what level, I'm not sure, but I'd like to fund that position to some degree. And Not sure how the committee feels about it, but, or what amount the committee might feel comfortable with, but Alderman Malis-Gilliard and then Alderman Clee.
Yeah, Carrie, Carrie, could I just have those numbers again? So it's 15% of what we think we're getting, and that amount is what?
We're estimating 596,000.
Right.
It's about level funded. We're still not sure
Right.
what Congress is doing with the budget.
And so the 15% of that is,
15% of that is 89,400.
okay. And then we're adding to that the 18,400 and a bit, 44.
18,444
Okay.
would
that's
be
what
allowed, right?
Okay,
So that would give us 107, 844.
yeah,
That would be the max that you could allocate to public service
the public
activities.
service. So
Correct.
this, what's being requested is just below 50% of the maximum we are allowed to allocate.
Yeah, mathematically, it's about that.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I had my numbers correct. And I personally don't know how they've been operating without someone full-time managing that facility.
Agreed.
And I think it's really important that there be someone there to start just setting up some procedures and making sure all the partners are engaged appropriately at the appropriate levels and that everyone's needs are being met. I think those of us who work in the nonprofit world know sometimes it can get a little shaky when people have competing interests. So looking at how all of that is managed.
Yeah.
And certainly we know our staff in City Hall is already pretty much, as they would say, flat out doing their jobs. So I do want to fund this. Again, I'm not quite sure at what level, but I do think we need to do something. And what I'd like to see, and I guess my only concern is that there doesn't seem to be something a little more well-defined in terms of the role of that person and the reporting. Although I was glad to hear today, Kim, that, you know, that person will basically be reporting to the board except for things like maintenance and all of that. But just to get a better sense of how that person is going to be operating. And then if it's possible, just getting a sense from the board as to what their plan is going forward to maintain this person, because I think we as a city really shouldn't be going out to hire someone for only 1 year and then saying, okay, we can't come up with the funds. I see this as seed money. And in fact, at the end of the first year, I think many of us sitting around this table know you're finally getting a sense of how things start to fit together. So I just think it's really important that there be some plan starting to be developed for some continuity, so it just doesn't in 12 months fall apart when the money runs out.
I agree. I think that the people that have been trying to cobble it and piece it together and keep it, you know, get it going, can't continue to do that. I
Right.
mean, because, you know, they have full-time jobs and they have family commitments, and unless you have someone who's going to take the charge and really develop the programming there, it's not going to continue to do well. And that concerns me, because I know a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy has gone into build this community center, and I would like to see it succeed. I know that, well, I'd like to put a dollar amount in here. We can ask the board, or we can ask Ms. Kleiner to come back with something a little more, you know, this is what we expect of this role, this position, this is what the board expects of this position, and we can up or down that number if we, you know, if we're happy with that. So, Alderman Karen.
Okay, thank you. I think this is great too, and all the comments that have been said. And sitting on Community Citizens Advisory Review and Comment Committee for the last forever. That is one of the things that we've looked at, as applications, because a lot of nonprofits, come up with a position, looking for funding for a position, but they have no way of moving forward after they get the money. And we always say in committee that we shouldn't be the funder for your positions year after year. So you have to show us something that you're moving forward. And I agree, I don't think the job description is quite what it should be. And I know the staff has worked really hard to keep this moving. I know that I've heard a lot of good comments about it, and it is in my ward. So Dr. Chris School is benefiting, but I think that we need a plan from their board of directors. How are you going to fund this later on? Or how are you going to fund it if we only give you half of the money or a third of the money? How are you going to get the other stakeholders to provide that funding? Or do you cut the hours back? Or how do you do that? I don't think that we don't want to fund it, but I think we have to, those questions are very important
I think
for
they're
any
being- I think they're being
nonprofit.
heard too.
Huh? So for me, that's my question. But Carrie giving us this additional amount, 15%, changes the total. So even if everyone decided that to fund it full and you gave the balance to review and comment, they would get a better benefit from it than they would have with the first amount of money that we were talking about. So, it's a very difficult decision, but I think we need to help them, but we also have to know how they're going to keep this up. So,
Okay. All those in
thank
favor?
you.
I want to kind of more or less say a me too to both of your comments. I think we do need to have a clear plan as to how they're going to sustain the position. My knee-jerk reaction when looking at all of this list was to think safety first. Let's fund those safety needs, especially when children and people, our citizens, are involved. I think this kind of is a safety issue. I think unless you have someone there coordinating and getting the program together, it's going to fall apart, and it's going to do it. So I do think it's extraordinarily important to have someone there, whether they be on site, whether they're looking for grants, whether they're looking for funding for their home position. I don't know, but I do think it is an extremely important position, but I want to know how they're going to sustain it.
And I agree. I think that there needs to be more information. What I would like to do, what I'd like to start thinking about is putting a dollar amount in here, and then, getting that information, and based on the feedback we get, we amend it or we keep it as is. Alderwoman Lisa Goya.
I'm going to make a motion for a dollar amount, but then may I also ask a couple questions?
You bet.
Okay. I will move at this time to fund it at the full amount requested, and just request that the questions and comments that have been raised this evening be brought back to, the answers as much as possible be brought back to us. And I guess my other question, and I think it's something, and again, Ms. Kleiner and I have had ongoing conversations about this, but I think it'll help us get a better sense of what this position should be funded at. How is the center, the Arlington Street Center, going to be nested within city government? And is this person going to be hired as a city employee? And then, as such, how do the current pay scales in city government impact what we should be looking at here? Because I think it's very important that if the center is going to be nested either in community development or the health department. We know that, and then we get a sense of where this executive director's position is going to fall on the scales. So we know what we're looking at. And I think at some point that question is going to need to be answered if that person is a city employee. So I think having that information up front is going to be important.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And what I also would like to know is this 60,000 just salary, or does this include fringe benefits? I mean, those kinds of things I think
Right.
are important for us to know. And I see Ms. Kleiner back there taking copious notes. So, Alderman Clee.
I actually was going to ask that question, whether or not it's a full-time position, whether it's with benefits, because everyone knows your salary is half of the cost.
Yep.
So,
Okay, so the motion before us is to recommend $60,000 in that line item. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, so with that said, that would leave an amount,
I'm sorry.
so I take 107,844 minus 60. Oop, not 60,000, not 600,000. 107.
47,844.
I just can't get my fingers to work tonight.
I have 47,844.
So that would be 47,844? That would be the amount we would put under under the percentage for the public service. That's right, isn't it, Carrie?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Just checking. Okay, Adult Learning Center. I'm sorry, Alderman Karen.
I'm sorry. I know that this has got to go to the full board and then it comes back. Could we put in there that we would ask that the mayor's office or Ms. Kleiner get us that information that we've been talking about concerning that particular position and how they would fund it in the future prior to our next Human Affairs meeting, so that if we needed to make a change up or down, we could do that?
So requested.
Thank you.
You bet.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay, Adult Learning Center, window replacement. The request is $50,000. What's the committee's pleasure? I mean, we have to take into account everything here, right? Where does this fit in the grand scheme of things? And Alderman Clee.
They didn't give us an alternate of if we only do half the windows, or when we're discussing this, can we make a recommendation that we could fund 50% of the windows? This is one of the safety issues, and like you, I know what those weighted windows are like, and I've had a few of them drop on me growing up as a child in my old house. So I do know, and especially in an industrial place such as that, it's going to be very dangerous. Are there, I don't know whether to recommend full funding or not, but I think I'd like to get information from them. Is there a way of giving us certain rooms that are more important, or is the cost going to be so cost prohibitive that if we bring somebody in a second time, they're going to charge us, sometimes if they get in there and they do the job, it's cheaper than bringing them in twice.
Well, that's true. However, if we only give them half the money, they only do half the windows.
Yeah.
Maybe they come back next year and get the other half. I mean, we can do really whatever we want to do. It's maybe they do focus on the child care section of the building this year, and then next year they look at 40 other windows in other parts of the building that aren't quite as critical, I guess. So, we can recommend anything. We can recommend 0, we can recommend half, we can recommend full funding, whatever the committee's pleasure is.
I'm still learning on the recommendation, so on, but
That's okay.
I do think we need to recommend something. I do think they need to. I would have liked to have known how much the cost of the children's rooms were, where those were, but they're not here, and I should have asked at that time.
That's okay. Do you want to make a recommendation for half the funding, and we can always ask them to provide that information?
Yes, I would like to recommend for half the funding.
Okay. That's your motion?
That's a motion.
The motion is to recommend $25,000 for window replacement at the Adult Learning Center. Further discussion on that? Seeing, oh, Alderman Malisi Goya.
Would you be willing to amend your motion to 30,000?
Absolutely.
I was just doing the numbers here in terms of what the total is that's been requested versus what we have and trying to look at what that percentage might look like, so.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend $30,000 for window replacement at the Adult Learning Center. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That
Madam
motion
Chair, I have
carries.
a question.
Sure.
Now, do we get recommendations from the committee, like to this committee, from the CBDG? They don't do recommendations. I'm just trying to
No,
understand.
who does it? I'm sorry.
It doesn't
Who
get
are you?
involved in
Committee
this.
that June is on,
Oh,
and I'm
no,
on with her,
no,
but,
No,
No.
okay, so
no,
when you
that's a
guys read
separate
all
part.
that,
Yeah,
okay, and you don't do any recommendations here, okay,
nope.
all right, I'm clear.
We have enough with what
I
we
know.
It is confusing. CDBG
Yeah.
and review and comment,
Right.
if you're not familiar with it, it can be very confusing.
Okay.
Okay, Boys and Girls Club HVAC replacement. I really appreciate an executive director who comes in here and says, I want to cut my funding request in half. You gotta love Norm.
Yeah.
Alderman Karen, then Alderman Malisi
Okay.
Goya.
Well, I was thinking that too. It was a large sum of money, and I know the work that the Boys and Girls Club has done. You know, I was involved with them from the beginning. Norm does a wonderful job, and for him to step up to the plate and said that they'll get the funding for the half of it, my recommendation is we give them the 62.5, because we know that he'll go out and scramble for the rest, knowing that there are other agencies that are looking for funding. So I thought this was commendable, and
Yeah, Norm's a great guy.
yeah, he is, yeah.
I agree. I think, I would agree with that amount. I think it's, some of his units, he said, were 30-plus years old, and, if you have hundreds of kids in there every day, those things are really necessary.
Yeah.
Alderman Melissa Goya.
I would just agree, and in looking at the application and the location of some of those units, they're also where their staff works, and I mean, the bottom line is everyone needs a comfortable environment to work in. And I think when you're staff dealing with that many children, you need a comfortable environment too. So I'm very comfortable giving him what he has requested.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before us is to recommend $62,500. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Marguerite's Place, exterior siding. Their request is for $99,000. Alderman Karen.
I know the work that Marguerite's Place does. I just wish they had gotten other bids, because this seems like an awful lot of money for siding.
I thought so too.
Not that I'm in that business, but
I mean, it is a
do know
multi-unit
people that do
building,
that
but-
kind of work, and that seems like such a huge amount of money that my feeling is that if we gave them half, they probably could get what they needed done. That's why I asked if she would look for other.
Other quotes? Alderman Clee.
Actually, that was going to be my exact comment too. I thought that was rather high and that there was only one source that she looked at. I agree. I think I'd like to recommend much lower than she asked for, and at the same time, ask her to come in with other bids if that's possible.
Well, Carrie, how does that work now? Because it has to go out through your office anyway, the
Right, so for these construction projects, these standalone projects, when they're not part of a major renovation, the construction services is handled through urban programs. We have a person on staff who, that's, half his job is to oversee the projects that are funded each year. So because of the Davis-Bacon and fair labor and the other contingencies that have to be included in the bidding and contracts. It's just more streamlined if we handle it in-house. So he actually draws up the scope of work, and whether it's a lighting project or the siding or what have you. And we put it out to bid, ensure that all the federal language is in there, and then we monitor the work ongoing, and then handle all the reporting as far as those Davis-Bacon and prevailing wages, because they have to submit certified weekly payrolls and things of that sort to our office. And generally, the nonprofits typically don't have the construction capacity to handle these projects, so that is one of the positions that is within urban programs that we do. So when it goes out to bid, it certainly will solicit, at least 3 quotes. I mean, it's typically there's about 7 to 10 contractors at any given point on our pre-qualified list that receive the notice. So, and generally, they end up being fairly competitive. I know there tends to be a conception that if it's government funded, sometimes the price inflates. But in my experience, they're trying to be very competitive, and we normally obtain a pretty good price.
Alderwoman Malizia, go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I just think Carrie's last comment is really important, to understand that although there are bids in here, that's not necessarily what's going to happen, because they're going to be sending them out from their office. So it could be a totally different ballgame when the bids come in.
I understand that, and I used the wrong term. I should have said estimates
Yeah.
instead of bids. I should
Yeah.
have said, get more estimates. I just feel that this one was just high. I'm sure that he took a look at the job and so on, or and over the phone or something, but it just seems, unless there's that much damage underneath that has to be repaired, that it goes beyond the siding, I'm not sure.
Okay. Does anyone have a recommended amount here? Do they want to fund this?
I just, if I may, could I,
Sure.
just for clarification, this is for re-siding of one building
Yes.
and doors at 2 buildings, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Anyone have a recommendation? All right, I'm going to throw one out there. I would recommend 50,000 as a placeholder for now for this project.
I agree.
That's my motion. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Nashua Center, lighting improvements. Boy, I think that return on investment they're going to get with this and the energy audit, that's really a good deal, because they're only paying half, and their return on investment is just over 2 years. That's really good. It's saving, almost $5,000 a year on their light bill is really commendable. Alderman Clee,
I'd like to recommend fully funding that one.
motion is to fully fund. Discussion on that motion. Alderman Karen.
I agree. I was quite impressed with that, and for Eversource to step in and pay half that cost, I think that would be the right thing for us to do for them.
Okay, motion is to recommend full funding on the Nashua Center. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, PAL, exterior lighting. So they had well, our numbers are going to be a little different, because now they're looking at 12,388, is that?
338.
338, okay. And that is for exterior lighting and expansion of their sprinkler system. Alderman Clee.
Again, I think this one is a safety issue, and I think the lighting on the outside is extraordinarily important, not just for their building, but also for the community. If there are people that are hanging around that shouldn't be, pardon the pun here, but we need to shine a light on it. I really do think so. And I'm always concerned about fire safety. I understand that he said the bathrooms were covered, the individual stalls aren't covered. I guess my only question is that something that's truly necessary, that the individual stalls be covered.
Oh, we could get some input from Fire Marshal's office. I'm sure they'd be happy to weigh in on something like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely fully for the lighting, and my only concern is that will the entire bathroom, I don't think they would have asked if the stalls were covered by the bathroom suppression system, so I'm assuming that they're going to need it, and it doesn't seem like it's extraordinary funding, so I don't want to delay anything like that, and
It's the committee's pleasure.
I'm in agreement with fully funding them, and I think, as Sean mentioned, this is something that's been mentioned to them for a couple of years, the need to improve the sprinkler system in that building.
I had a question about the lighting. You talked about some flip-down lighting that would illuminate the building. I didn't know if that was a necessity or nice to have or nice to need.
Well, I can speak to it a little bit
Okay,
because my
sure.
church is
Okay.
right adjacent to it, and what he was referring to was the two sides. This side of the building, there's an apartment building there,
Right.
and this side is the church.
Yep.
And they do go in these little sections when they're dark, because we can come out of church sometime and we would see kids back there when they really shouldn't be back there,
Right.
So I think it is a safety thing, that the PAL Center is lit up. I think they'll have less problems there.
Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Lisa
I
Goya?
think the flip-on floodlights that Alderman Gathright are referring to on the picture that he sent us are the ones that would be located between the church and house, so where we put the ramp in, where they put the ramp in on the side of the building, and then around back. And then the additional low-level lighting around the front. And I think Alderman Wilshire, the lights you were talking about were the LED lights to allow for color. And I kind of go both ways with that, because it's like, yeah, is it a necessity? But then you kind of look at the neighborhood and where it is and what goes on there, and sense of pride in building, and I don't know. I mean, the thought went through my mind too. The other two sets of lights are definitely necessary.
And I was okay with those two.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm okay with the third set, but no, it's
The colored lights.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Karen.
Okay. Well, I think that as well, but I think where he's coming from is the fact that other groups want to use the facility. So if you're looking at a group that is celebrating some event, for their ethnic community, and they want to put on green and yellow and white lights, that's there, and it just kind of adds to the event or whatever they're doing. I think it shows that he's trying to work with the neighborhood and be part of that neighborhood. So I don't see that. I don't think the cost, the total cost is $10,000. I think the biggest cost are your floodlights, which you need for safety purposes, and your low-level lights, for the back area to keep people from wandering into the back where they're not needed. So I don't see a real problem with that. I think that if you can get more organizations to utilize the facility and know that the PAL area is for everyone, I think that's a good thing. I would have a concern if it was $5,000 more just to put that in, but I think that's just part of the whole package. I don't see that as a
Yeah,
real.
but we don't even have a breakdown of it, which is what I'm.
Oh, yeah, it's just
Right.
$10,000 for,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
But I don't think LED colored lights are that
Okay, Alderman Clee.
What I did like about them is that they are LED lights, which is going to make them more efficient, more
Yeah.
green, and
Yeah.
so
Right.
on. And they have longevity.
Yes.
So,
That's
you
true.
know, I don't foresee them being very expensive. I think we should, my recommendation is to fully fund it, but then to ask them to give us a complete breakdown so that we can see if that is an extraordinary cost.
Okay,
But at this point, I
Fair
think I
enough.
would fully fund.
Sure.
fair enough. Okay, the motion is to fund Nash Rappel exterior lighting at $12,338. Further discussion on that motion?
And sprinklers.
And
Oh, and sprinklers, right, and additional sprinklers. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. City DPW Labine Park bathroom, $20,000. Alderman Malisi Goya.
I like the fact that I don't know how realistic the price is, and I will let others around the table who are more knowledgeable than I am address that. But I like the fact that we're looking at having accessible bathrooms near our legacy playground. And I think that's kind of the final piece there in terms of making it accessible for both children and adults who are participating there. So that is my comment on the bathrooms and
I don't
upgrading them.
recall what the total cost of that. Do you, Carrie, what the total cost of that project was?
20,000.
Was it 20?
20.
Yeah.
It says 20 on here.
Oh, he received 20 for that last year, and he's looking for 20 more for it this year?
Correct.
And that will complete it, correct, Carrie?
Yes, it's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the committee's pleasure? Do we want to give him 20,000? Alderman Karen.
I knew you were waiting. This is a project, you know, we have bathrooms in all our facilities, either portable or, and at Labine, we've had them before. They're just in disrepair. We just haven't, evidently, we haven't had the money in the last 12 years to fix them. So because we have that new playground there, and this is a need, I don't have a problem giving them the last $20,000 to get this done and over with. But I would recommend that we maintain the building and the facility so that they're not coming back in 5 years looking for money to do repairs. We have to learn to take care of our buildings. So I don't have a problem giving them the $20,000 because I think it's important because of the playground there, but this has been a project that's been ongoing for way too long now, so.
Oh, Alderman Clee, sorry.
That's okay. I agree. I think any good park is going to have a bathroom to go with it. I think that gives dignity to the park, truthfully. But do we know if these will be locked, much like they do at Greeley, after a certain time at night, and they will be closed during the winter months and so on, and that's all part of maintenance. So
There I wouldn't know because it's going to be a building similar to Gurley Park,
Right.
but I don't know if anybody would go there to lock them up at night. So that would be a question that Park Rec would have to get to us, you know. When we had people going out to the parks at night and monitoring, you know, till 10 o'clock at night, they would lock those up.
Right.
Obviously, the portable bathrooms that are in most of the parks, they're open all the time. They don't lock them. But because this is also would be a storage room, that might, and that's why they've had problems there before.
Oh, Alderman Clee.
just to follow, I would be concerned if they weren't locked up. Being a building, anything can happen in there, and
Right.
I mean, I would hope that that would be part of the whole maintenance, as you refer to, as maintaining the building. At night, anybody can go in and do damage or whatever. I just think it's,
So, may I?
Yes.
Okay, so because you have a swimming pool across the street, you probably could have them, when they close up at 8 o'clock, go across the street and lock up.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the softball field being utilized, they're allowed to be at the facility till 10 PM. So, Park Rec doesn't have a staff person that works that late, so it would either be someone would have to come out and get paid to do it, or, so there's a lot of ifs, that, ands, or buts to it, When we used to have the park patrol, they were out till 10 o'clock, so they went to all these facilities and locked them and verified that everything was locked up, but you don't have that anymore, so.
Motion is to recommend 20,000 for the Labine Park bathroom. Further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. So what I tally, we have $300,000 left in requests that are related to the streetscape and the Arlington, the
Splash pad.
the splash pad and the streetscape. 300,000, but we only have about 77,000 left to spend. So let's talk about the splash pad. Looks like fun. Looks like a lot of fun. So we have two projects left that haven't really we haven't talked about, the splash pad and the Alderman Karen.
Can you give us that balance that we have left?
77,138.
No.
349.
Well, no, but we have the UPD, all the admin stuff, right? I'm sorry, I meant as far as projects go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, because we still have the UPD admin, the project delivery, and the housing improvement program. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we could cut that, but we wouldn't have Carrie here to
Right,
help
right,
us
and
through
we need
this.
Carrie. We need Carrie. Okay.
That wouldn't help.
So we have 70,000 left?
77,000, not including the admin, project delivery, and the housing improvement program. We have 77,000 left for those two projects. I mean, for now. I mean, this could all change. What's the committee's pleasure? Splash pad. Looks like a lot of fun. Alderman Karen?
Yeah, well, my idea of a splash pad is more important than the streetscape on School Street at this point in time. But if they needed some seed money, I wouldn't have a problem doing that. But I don't think the city could build, well, they could build a splash pad for less than $100,000. It just wouldn't be as fancy as they would like, obviously. So you have to weigh one against the other. Otherwise, I'd give them $70,000 towards it. But that's just me.
Well, I mean, the School streetscape is looking to the future, obviously on the possibility of a hotel being built downtown that we haven't had in, 100 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 50, 100 years. I'm going to leave it up to the committee. What's your pleasure?
You always say that.
Alderman Clay.
I agree. I think the splash pad would be nice. I also agree that although the streetscape would be nice, I think we could either do seed money or bring that one down significantly and see if they can. But the splash pad, I would say do a partial at least to see if they could build something with it.
Alderman Milisi-Goya.
I have a question for Carrie. Can this money be used towards operations?
Which money,
And
the splash pad or?
The money that's being requested, I'm sorry, for School Street. because in the request, it is physical infrastructure improvements to help accommodate the streetscape requirements, including but not limited to assembling one or two adjacent parcels, laying out the roadway, adding parking spaces, and associated landscaping. Additionally, there is a thought to put the funds towards assisting with the operations.
No, I think under this process, it would have to be limited to the physical improvements.
Okay, that is my thought also. So there is no ability to put this towards operations. That was my thought, but I wanted you to clarify that.
It would be an economic development, a special economic development project, it's called,
Right.
under CDBG. So, I mean, technically, it could, if it was needed to help develop the business, the end result is creating low-mod jobs. That's what makes the activity eligible. It's not necessarily, you're not having low-mod clients served or a low-mod area, but it is helping the hotel come to fruition, and in exchange for that, the hotel would have to sign job agreements, and we would track that those positions become filled by low to moderate income people. So, under those guidelines in CDBG, I guess I misspoke a little bit, there is flexibility in how you do that and how the money goes. But that would be, if it were for operations, it would be directly to the hotel, so it would be a different type of an agreement versus if we were doing physical infrastructure where it would be obviously to the city. I mean, it wouldn't, to a contractor, I don't think our public works department would be doing it, but it would be, although they may do some of it, I'm not sure. So it is two different things, and I guess the agreements would look different. I just think it's premature, and they're not sure at this time.
Well, I guess that's my feeling, that it's like we think we might need it for this, that, or the other thing, but we're not sure what or where. And so is 200 really lowballing it, or is like where's 200 in the total picture of things? Okay, thank you.
So it looks like the splash pad, the total budget is 200,000. I don't know. What's the committee's pleasure?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the splash pad in here. 1 second. I thought I had it. And I
I
lost
think I'll put tabs in these books next year.
Thank you.
I know, and I was going to do that with Post-its, and then I just never did.
I can't find them either.
Am I reading this right, though? The request is only for the 100,000?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so do we know where the other 100 is coming from, Carrie? Or is it in their budget? Or
I'm not sure. I am trying to recall from when we met about it, if it's,
or is it capital
Kim may know
improvements?
too. I believe, I know it's either in their budget already or, I don't know. I don't want to answer that because I'm not
Okay,
sure.
no, that's fine.
I
Okay.
shouldn't guess.
It says pending
It says
capital
pending
improvements.
capital improvements.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I'd read that somewhere, but, okay.
So that means it's in their budget? That they have the 100,000 already?
It's been ranked by capital improvements, and I can't tell you right now off the top of my head where it was, but I do remember a conversation about it in capital improvements.
So if they did not get this from capital improvements, then it would be short, correct? I mean, that's what part of that request is.
Yeah, and then they may come back to us next year for the other
For the other,
100,000 and
okay.
build a nice splash pad.
And we have 77?
Mm-hmm. Correct, if we fund urban programs, which I think we should.
Yeah, we want to see Carrie. Um, um, I would make, if I may, I'm
Alderman
sorry.
Louis, no, that's fine.
I would make a recommendation that we give them 75, and the remaining 2 we give to the Adult Learning Center for their windows.
You don't want to leave any for contingency?
Oh, that's true. I forgot we have to do that. What do we usually leave for contingency?
We need more than 2,000.
Yeah, I know. It's a percentage, but
It has varied. I mean, there have been years where it's been as low as 2 because it was so tight, and
Years where it's been higher. But
yeah, I mean,
I would like to
5-ish.
put something in there.
5? Do you want to put 5 in?
So give the splash pad 70.
So give them 70
I think 70
for
would be
the
good.
splash pad?
Is that your motion?
Okay, so 70 for the splash pad, and then do we want to put 7 in contingency, or do we want to give 2 to the Adult Learning Center and 5 in contingency? Carrie, do you think 7 is too much in contingency, or should we just leave it there?
Well, it's tough to say because the contingency serves 2 different needs. It's either if there's an unforeseen cost with one of the projects that's been funded, and so between 5 and 7,000, there's not a huge difference there. And then the other need is if something arises throughout the program year and there's a critical need that that there's a small amount of money that we could tap into. So it's tough to say, if a tree comes through a roof somewhere and there's an emergency need to fund something like that, between 5 and 7 could probably do it. It just really depends on.
Okay, well then let's just leave 7 in contingency. If we don't
Right.
use it, we can just reprogram
So we're gonna
it.
have a round number in there because we have 75 cents in here for the Nashua Center. Okay, so, all right. So the motion is to recommend $70,000 for the splash pad. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Then that would leave us contingency of $7,138 minus 75 cents. Alderman Karen,
Yeah, and School Street's giving them nothing, right?
we had nothing left.
Nothing.
We have
Okay, so-
nothing left.
Okay, and now, do we have to make a motion concerning the funding to go to?
Urban programs? Okay, we can talk about that too. So
No, review and comment? Too?
Oh, we already did that.
Oh, we did do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I
We
didn't
did
know
that
it was
at
a
the
motion.
start, $47,488.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize,
Was there, I don't know.
I
was
didn't
there a
think there was a motion.
No,
I-
there might not have been a motion. We
That's-
can, we can make that motion. I will make the motion to recommend $47,844 for the community grant program. Review and comment. I can't get it out of my head.
I
Review and
can't
comment.
either.
Discussion on that?
No, thank you. That will
Seeing
help.
none, all those in favor say aye.
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 What was those
Opposed?
figures again? 47?
47,488.
844.
844?
844, 47,844. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, and then for contingency, I will move that we place the $7,137.25 into contingency.
Puts me off a little bit.
Oh, okay. I thought the number you had,
I know, I'm off a dollar or two.
There should be a 5 cents difference too because of the funds that were reprogrammed. On the memo, it just
Oh, the
rounded up.
95 cents.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, okay.
these pennies.
okay.
It's pennies. We'll let Carrie worry about that. It's literally pennies, and it's gonna go into contingency, so.
Right.
Okay, so, well, the Urban Programs Department is a 20% cap, and they're looking at 127,200, which I believe is 20% of the entitlement and 20% of the program income, which is where you get the 127.2.
Correct.
Okay, so that amount, and then the UPD project delivery is to go out and help all these agencies get their projects done and estimated and bid and all that stuff, and they do a good job with that. And then the UPD Housing Improvement Program, that's the formerly known as HIP. That's money that, you know, if someone falls on hard luck and their furnace dies in the middle of winter and they need some help, that's the kind of thing we use that money for. So I would recommend that we fund UPD admin at 127,200, UPD project delivery at 119,502, and the housing improvement program at 75,000. That's my motion.
I agree.
Discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Well, terrific.
May I just ask Carrie a question?
Sure.
Under the UPD project delivery, how many, is that one staff person, 1.5, 2? It's
No,
probably here, I could look at it.
I don't think it's in the breakdown by percentage that I provided you. So it's 100% of one position,
Okay,
and that's the project or construction manager.
Right.
And then it's a small percentage of one other position who does some of the like paperwork and things like that related to those jobs. So it's not a straight. It's definitely 100% of one, and then I can't remember off the top of my head what percentage of another staff person. So Urban Programs, who charges to that, there's 3 full-time positions, myself, the project manager, and then the grant manager, who does all the collects all the reporting information and that.
yeah, I just, for new members, I think it's important to know that this is what maintains
Right.
the staff in your program to
Right.
keep things going.
And Urban Programs is 100% grant funded, our department in the city. So we have to cover the full cost of all the fringe benefits
Right.
as well. Whereas, you know, city departments, you tend to, it's covered through like human resources, and you don't see the budget as directly.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
So are these the positions also that you mentioned, that when a contract is done and so when they go in, they check in on it? And
Yes, ma'am.
okay, good.
So in the resolution, Carrie, we usually also have the home funds in there. Are you just going to add that to the resolution, or?
I do have some numbers if I
Okay.
can throw them out for discussion. Again, we're just, in the lack of any other information, basically estimating level funding for
Okay.
now. So we used an estimate of an annual award of $278,000. That's what we ended up receiving, or close to that, rounded off last year.
Okay.
From that, we can take a max of 10% for admin, which would be $27,800. We are required to set aside 15% for what's called CHODO activities. That stands for Community Housing Development Organizations. And so for the new members and those at home, those are organizations they're a nonprofit who are dedicated to developing housing as their core mission. And so again, under the HUD regulations, 15% of your home grant must be set aside for those entities. That's $41,700. And then there's a third line item that typically or historically has been funded, and that's just general affordable housing development. So that's either rental or homeowner housing. And if you deduct those other two amounts from the estimated annual award, that would leave $208,500 for general affordable housing development.
So that's what we'll see in the resolution, right? All these numbers will be in the resolution?
Sure. Unless you want to make a motion. And, but yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
Just, Carrie, the Chodo money for new members, how has that been used in the past?
Typically, it's, again, the organization home changed or had changed the home rules a few years ago. The way it used to work is an entity would apply for a Chodo status, and there's a very rigorous standard that we have to go through and examine to ensure that they meet the criteria to be a certified housing development organization. And now they've done it so that they have to apply for that status as they're developing the project. So when they submit an application, and again, whether it be rental housing or affordable homeowner housing, they would apply for Chodo status at the same time, because we have to identify if they are going to act as an owner, a developer, or a sponsor. So, and they have to have the correct staff capacity. The other really important criteria is that their board composition has 1/3 low-income representation. So they have to serve the area where they're developing the housing. They have to have the core mission of developing affordable housing, and then the board composition is the other important piece. There's a whole, the criteria is actually about 3 pages long to go through, but those are the high points. So we have funded, for example, Southern New Hampshire Housing Services was one of the recent Chodo projects that we did, and the funding was to develop Salmon Brook. Obviously not the whole project, just a portion of it. And prior to that, I'm trying to think who used Chodo money before that. That was the most recent. Cotton Mill, no, that was a private developer.
Did we do anything with, on Chestnut Street? Or
We've done
Habitat,
yeah,
right?
we've funded Habitat, but not as a Chodo, not under the Chodo. I think Salmon Brook was the most recent, and we were able to allocate the balance we had at that time. We do have a balance of Chodo funds from this current fiscal year and last fiscal year. So through urban programs, we'll be kind of hitting the streets, trying to get the word out to find a Chodo eligible entity who is ready to develop a project, because matching those two up isn't always easy.
Now, is the expectation that we use it or lose it on the home funds after a certain period?
Again, those rules recently changed
Oh.
as well. The Chodo funds, yes, they did not change the language related to Chodo funds, so you have to commit it within 2 years of receiving it. The other funding, or the general, or non-Chodo funding, they've temporarily suspended that rule, so it's giving a little more time to let that money accumulate. And for Nashua, because we don't receive a very high amount, it works to our benefit because we're able to let that pool a little bit so that it can make a significant impact. Otherwise, you're trying to put $100,000 into a multi-million-dollar project, and it's difficult.
Alderman Clee?
Do we know what the balance is and when it will, and when it will expire?
Currently, the balance of Chodo funds is $85,385. So again, it's not a high amount, which makes, again, it's the home funds come with a lot of restrictions and regulations and reporting. So it's somewhat difficult to go out and entice an entity to want to take the funds in the first place. And if it's not a high enough amount, it doesn't quite tip the scales for them. It's sometimes not worth all the extra reporting and restrictions that come with it. But typically the way we've done it is if we've had the Chodo funds plus regular development funds, we can put that together and offer that to a developer or a nonprofit who's developing property. So the FY17 funds, which is about half the amount, those would be expiring, I want to say in September or October. So we'll be looking to get those committed. And we take home applications on a rolling basis, so at any given point, we could have something come through the door. And if not, we'll be looking for it.
Okay. Anything else?
So did we make a motion to put those numbers in? Do you?
The
Alderman
motion
Ga-
was to fund UPD admin at $127,200, UPD project delivery at $119,502, and UPD housing improvement at $75,000. That's my motion. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries.
I'm going to apologize to Ms. Lovering if there are double motions in there. I couldn't remember if we did, and I wanted to make sure we had it for the record.
Okay. Carrie?
So the next Human Affairs Committee meeting is scheduled in April will serve as the second public hearing in the process.
Okay.
So for the new members, basically what's been decided tonight will take the form of a resolution, be introduced to the full board, and referred back here. So it gives an opportunity for the public to again come in and comment on what's been recommended for funding. In years past, we used to actually have our numbers, our allocation from HUD. I don't see that happening for the April meeting. So, we'll also have to talk about what the plan will be to adjust the awards. I think they were just adjusted proportionately last year, if it goes up or down. Hopefully up.
Hopefully up. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate all your help as always.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Kleiner, for your help tonight. Alderman Karen.
Leaves, I just want to thank her. We just finished the project on review and comment, community action grants, and she was a great help because we had so many new people on board, and we were short someone, and Kerry was really indispensable. So I just want to thank you myself because
Thank you.
it was a very difficult thing, and we now have to sit down and the pros and cons and what we need to do to move forward. But between this and that, you put in a lot of time and effort. So I just want you to know I appreciate the hard work you do.
Thank you, Alderman Karen.
Thank you.
I would like to echo that.
Me too. Thanks, Carrie. Okay, we are at the end of our agenda. New business ordinances, we have none. General discussion?
I believe, just for the public who is watching, tomorrow night's BOA meeting has been canceled. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So
There's
just
this-
in case people were thinking they were coming.
People were going to venture out in that?
There'll be a special meeting on Wednesday
Right,
to cover the,
yeah.
Okay, public comment? Seeing none? Remarks by Alderman?
Thank you to everyone.
Yes, thank you to everyone. This is really the hardest part, is getting the numbers down to into a format that we think we can work with over the ensuing 2 or 3 months. So thank you for that. The hard work is almost done.
Yes.
it's hard saying no to somebody, though.
Yes.
No need for a non-public. Do I have a motion? Alderman Karen?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Motion before us is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:12. Thanks, everyone. That was a good meeting.
Do might get the mics.